This week in CAA football, powered by GEICO, returns on this fine Wednesday. Bobby Broyles, along with Tim McDonald here in studio.
I told you it was going to be a big week last weekend, Bob, and a lot of things happened.
Making
moves. People are making moves.
A big weekend indeed it was. We saw a couple key results as Villanova lost at Richmond, and James Madison beat William & Mary. 3 weeks remain, and New Hampshire is now in the driver's seat to take the CAA football title.
Maybe a little Home Depot, Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
How did that Halloween costume work for you?
Really well. The ladies loved it. But anyways, now we get back to last week. You look at the statement win. I think that's the biggest win under Coach Rocco that Richmond has had during his tenure. Richmond gets it done. Yeah, it's 10-9, and it's not the prettiest of games. But to hold Villanova to 253 yards of total offense and keep John Robertson and crew in check, a heck of a job by that Richmond D. All of a sudden, Richmond's won 5 straight. Don't look now, but this team is reeling, and not a lot of us gave a lot of credit to Richmond the week leading up to this. They got it done, a huge win for them.
Rocco's just been amazing in November for the Spiders so
He
far.
has. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yep.
You also have to look at UNH. They keep rolling, get the job done at home versus Albany, 49-3 after 3 quarters. And R.J. Harris just showing why he's one of the best receivers in this league. And, of course, JMU over William & Mary. They battled back. They were down in that game in the 4th quarter. Come back with a huge drive to end the game, score with less than a minute left. And JMU with those bright purple. Were you all right watching that TV? I thought your eyes were going to burn out.
The bright purple and the black jerseys, they looked good.
They did look good. But, again, I think you're the one who said it in the office this week. It's spoiler week here at CAA football. 5 of the 6 matchups on Saturday between teams still in postseason contention versus teams that really don't, have anything to lose.
Yep.
It's a huge week again. Remember, there's only 3 games left in the season. It's crazy. The P word, we're going to have to start talking about playoffs more and more each and every week.
Your headlines just keep getting more and more dramatic, Tim, as
Only
we
for you.
Yeah, indeed, as we head down to the final few weeks. Let's open things up this Saturday in Kingston at 12:30 as the Rhode Island Rams look to play their spoiler role when they host first place New Hampshire.
Rhodey's going to have to play spoiler. Haven't won a game this season. Again, a closer game last week versus Delaware. They lose 28-13. A game that was really hard with all that weather that rolled through New England last week. I know it was in Delaware, but still. Look at UNH right now and just the offense. I think they listened to me last week in the show and said, we don't need to get it to other weapons. We'll just give it to our wide receiver, R.J. Harris. R.J. Harris right now in the season, 269 career catches. That's 3rd all-time in CAA football. He's 35 behind the all-time record. It's interesting. We haven't seen Sean Goldrich, the true starter for this team, since the Richmond game, and that was in September. But again, Valus has just been getting it done in that. How about that UNH defense last week? 3 picks off Will Fiocchi. Albany turned the ball over 4 times. I just think the type of season that UNH is having right now, they can't afford to overlook this one. And Rhode Island coming into this game, Bob, only 12.1 points per game, allowing 36 points per game. Something there has to give. A little bit of an advantage, slight advantage because they're at Rhodey, but still, I just think UNH can't afford to look ahead.
Also at 12:30 on Fox College Sports, Maine comes off an open week to host Richmond. Black Bears catching the Spiders at the right time, Tim, after an emotional win.
The first 5 minutes of both coaches' talk this week was about the weather.
Oh, yeah.
They already got a couple of inches of snow up in Orono.
Sounds like a little more than a couple inches, but yeah.
But still, this is a game right now where I think Rhodey has to enter this one, and I think they will enter this one with their ears pinned high. This is a game right now where Maine's coming off a bye week. Of course, they have to travel up to Orono. These Richmond guys, I'm sure won't like that flight up to Orono, get off the field for the walkthrough on Friday, probably wearing sweatpants. Still, this is a Richmond team right now that has to keep building. We looked at Rocco last week, and again, it wasn't the most graceful performance, but it wasn't that bad either. He scored a rushing touchdown. And defensively, this Richmond team, we just keep on talking about them. 10 points or less in 3 straight games. That's the first time since 1976 for this Richmond team. And that defense, and how about this stat for you? In the first quarter this year, Richmond in 7 straight games has not allowed an opponent to score at all. 85-10 on the year, Richmond is outscoring foes in the first quarter. And like you said, Mr. November himself, Danny Rocco.
Oh, yeah.
22-4 all-time as a head coach, 8-0 as a Spiders head coach in this month. Maine, on the other hand, I think offensively they're going to struggle to keep up with Richmond, but their key right now has to be on defense to stop Rocco and crew from setting the tone with the ground game.
Yeah, we got to see Richmond's defense get an accolade finally last week with Omar Howard, 18 tackles against Villanova to get the Defensive Player of the Week award. Stony Brook also looks to bounce back off an open week when it hosts JMU at 1. The Seawolves have been awfully tough to beat for the league's top teams this year, Tim.
Yes, they have. Everyone who's come into this game for Stony Brook has gotten a dogfight, and it's been a physical game. I look at this matchup. Last year, let's remember, Stony Brook went to JMU, pulled out a win. I think that's going to resonate with a couple of JMU players, for instance.
Yeah.
Athletically, this is going to be a great matchup. We know that a lot of these teams, a lot of transfers are on both teams. This is going to be a really good game in terms of athletic ability at the FCS level. Stony Brook, I think defensively, we know they still lead the conference in scoring D. We know they still lead this conference in rushing D. And JMU last week versus William & Mary didn't get it done on the ground, which is historically what they've been doing all season. They got it done through the air. Vad Lee threw for 3 touchdowns this year. Don't look now, but Vad Lee's the CAA football leader in passing yards per game with 257 yards. Not to mention, we always talk about it, but 8 different players this year have caught a touchdown pass for JMU. That's going to be the key for Stony Brook's going to have to stop Vad Lee. I think they're going to try to spy him, put something on him. Christian Ricard, the linebacker, has been playing great, and Victor Ochi coming off that 4-sack performance versus New Hampshire. Both of them are going to be busy this week. It's a really good game. I think this is the game of the week in my mind versus an offense versus Vad Lee, who's rolling, and versus a defense right now who's had time to prepare for that.
At 3:30 on Comcast Sportsnet and CA.TV, Elon travels to Williamsburg to take on William & Mary. The Tribe are desperate for a win at this point, Tim, as they look to stay in the playoff mix.
And back to that playoff word, right now at this point in the season, so many teams are looking to boost their resumes. William & Mary is one of those teams right now. They've lost 3 of 4 in their last 4 games. It's been really tough for them to find a win. Last week, they did things right versus JMU. They had that game. They blocked a punt for a touchdown, a phenomenal block by Kendall Anderson, the running back. And they're up in that game, and all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, they give a couple of big passing plays, and ultimately JMU gets it done against them. I don't think the Tribe are done yet in terms of the playoff talk, but I still think they just need to refocus a little bit, come home and get a win. They finish with Elon at Towson and then home versus Richmond. So if you win out of those games, you say, how can you leave them out? Again, on the other hand, Elon coming off a tough loss at Towson. They were down 21-6 at half. Battled back. You have to be impressed by Coach Rich Skrosky and his crew. It's never an excuse every week. We knew what we were getting into with CAA football. They battled back, eventually tie the game, have a chance to come back and tie it with a 2-point conversion and don't get it done. Unfortunately, lose by 2. But still, I just think William & Mary so close last week that I think they're going to try to get back on track this week.
At 7, Villanova looks to bounce back at home versus, watch out now, a Towson team that's won 2 straight. You can see this one on the American Sports Network and CA.TV. The Tigers obviously hope to throw a wrench in the Wildcats season right now.
They're going to have to play spoiler right now, and this is a game that I think is dangerous for Villanova. And the fact, not only because they lost, but I think it's dangerous for the fact, let's remember, Towson only had a couple of losses last year. Remember, one of those was that Villanova team. John Robertson ran all over them. He had a monster game last year. And again, not to say that that's going to have the same influence this year, but still, Villanova, coming off that loss, we saw them, it was just a sloppy game. 3 turnovers by Nova. John Robertson threw a pick, which he hadn't done, in a long time. We praise Robertson, but again, he didn't have one of his best games passing, under 150 yards. How about this stat for you, too? Villanova had under 300 yards of offense, 253 to be exact. That was the lowest output since 2011 for this team. That team had been rolling. Now they come into this one versus Towson. Interestingly enough, Towson, like you said, has won 2 straight games. 5 losses on the year, but still, the Tigers have nothing to lose here. Absolutely nothing. They can, like you said, absolutely throw a wrench in Nova's season if they can get it done. Offensively, we know Towson right now, 950 yards this season for Darius Victor, the running back, 9 touchdowns. Gonna probably get over 1,000 in this game. You'd like to think, though, the second rusher for Towson is Connor Frazier, their quarterback, with 399 yards. So you'd like to think Nova's gonna stack the box and try to force them. Again, Frazier's only averaging 129 passing yards per game. Nova right now, this is a huge game. You can't afford to look ahead, and you can't afford to worry about what happened last week. A huge game for Villanova this week.
Saturday's only matchup featuring 2 teams with over 500 records takes place when UAlbany welcomes Delaware to Bob Ford Field at 3:30. These are a pair of teams looking to position themselves for a late season push.
Albany struggled last week offensively, like we mentioned. Bob turned the ball over 4 times. Before that game, they just had 6 turnovers the whole season. So that gives you a little bit of example. Yes, it was pouring rain, and yes, it was bad weather. Again, Omar Osborne was held in check for really the first time in a long time all season last week. He only had 21 yards on 10 carries, which is just uncharacteristic. Still averages over 100 yards per game, but still, the Danes right now need a win, but so does Delaware. Again, Delaware's coming off that win versus Rhodey, but still, both of these teams right now. Let's remember, too, last year, UAlbany traveled to Delaware, fought hard in that game, and ultimately lost on a last-second field goal by Delaware. Delaware kind of stole that game. Trent Hurley last week, had one of his better games passing. If you just look at the stats, 15 of 19 for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was only 28-13, so it wasn't a huge wow win. I expect this to be a really good game. Right now, Albany offensively has been led by their freshman wide receiver, Josh Gontarek, who picked up another Rookie of the Week award. I just expect Fiocchi to bounce back. He threw 3 picks last week. I don't know. This is a really interesting game, especially that it's at UAlbany, so I give them a slight advantage. The winner of this is still in the mix in my mind for the playoff push. Let's not forget, if Delaware, too, you're sitting there and saying, what about us? Why aren't we in the playoffs? all Delaware has to do is win the last 3 games. Yes,
Yep.
it's versus Albany, New Hampshire, and Villanova. You do that, though, there's no
Okay.
question the playoff committee will look at you.
Indeed, a lot on the line for a lot of teams this weekend, Tim, and CAFootball.com will have television clearance information for this weekend. And as a reminder, CAA.TV will simulcast the Elon at William & Mary and Towson at Villanova broadcasts.
And Twitter, we got Facebook, we got Instagram. You just search CAA Football, Bob, and use the
got it all.
hashtag CAFB.
The CAA.TV crew will be busy this weekend at other CAA fall championships, but we'll be back on campus next weekend in Durham to check out the New Hampshire Wildcats. You can catch all of this season's on-campus content now on our blog, caafootball.wordpress.com.
And big news on the Yak this week, CAA Football's official podcast, is that this guy moved in front of Bobby on the 3 and out topics this year. And Bobby, Alex, and I return tomorrow with special guest Marty Scarano, the athletic director at the University of New Hampshire. He joins us to discuss the FCS playoff selection committee, and his job is about to become really, really important
it is.
here down the stretch, especially across this league and across the FCS in general.
And you can check that out on the blog tomorrow. You know the deal. Enjoy the game Saturday, everyone.